With the Wilkinson Cameras HQ, Panasonic sent us a very exciting parcel, the brand new Lumix G9. The G9 is Panasonic's newest addition to their lineup, and with no previous predecessor, the camera is Panasonic's flagship compact system stills camera. Labelled as a wildlife photographer's camera, it sits in line at the top of the pile alongside the video-orientated GH-V. Although similar, featuring the same Micro Four Thirds 20.3 megapixel sensor, the G9 is reportedly faster, capable of an impressive 20 frames per second with continuous autofocus. Plus, the camera has an exciting 80 megapixel high resolution mode, as well as improved low light capabilities and in-camera sensor shift stabilization technology. When I was told we'd be getting the G9, I imagined myself photographing lions and elephants on the savannah. Unfortunately, Wilkinson Cameras didn't quite have the budget to send me to Africa. We're in Liverpool. I brought the tripod along, and Liverpool is actually home to some incredible buildings and architecture. So we're going to do some architectural photography. So I think I've just found my first location, and I'm going to go vertical on this one. Light, we've really kind of backlit in a way. Got the sun shining behind the building, so it should be a good test of dynamic range. We're shooting RAW, 20.3 megapixels of course, and we'll see how it goes. But we could do a double exposure on this, but I think we're just going to see how well the RAW handles it and see if what we can pull back in the shadows in post. The first image would be a difficult situation for any camera, but the G9 performed well. Opening the image into Photoshop's Camera Raw, I used the Global Shadows slider to open up the shadows. The bright sky was retained and image quality and colour information still looked great, with plenty of data left to do further colour correction in the shadows. Panasonic also claimed that although the camera uses the same sensor as the GH-V, the G9 has a 25% increase in dynamic range as well as improved ISO performance. Another favourite spot of mine in Liverpool is the Echo Arena. Super cool building, so we're going to try and photograph that. Security is quite tight around here, so I imagine I'll probably get kicked out. I was excited to try out the G9's high resolution mode, and what better way than to capture some detailed shots of buildings. The high resolution mode implements the image stabilization sensor shift technology to stack 8 images together via sensor movement and a complex algorithm. To enable, all you have to do is navigate to the high resolution mode in the camera's menu and press start. Within this menu you have options to output either a RAW or JPEG file, or both at the same time. Other options enable you to take a standard 20.3 megapixel file simultaneously, as well as a shutter delay which allows you to have a time gap in between each exposure. Comparing these two images side by side within this video, you're really not going to see much difference detail wise, however I can assure you that there is in fact a difference. 80 megapixels sounds like a heck of a lot compared to 20, and it really is. However, resolution wise, even zoomed in, there really doesn't seem to be much gained. But this is simply down to two things: the sensor size and the resolving power of the glass. Neither are designed to resolve that amount of pixels. But what you do see is an incredible reduction of noise. This in turn makes the image appear more crisp and sharper around the edges. Another huge benefit is the reduction of moire and other unwanted artifacts. Also what you see is beautiful highlight roll-off, almost film-like in fact. Yeah, so the security guard came. I told him I was an architectural student, which I'm not. He was totally cool with it, so he radioed through and they were fine. So I'm just going to move on to the next location, got what I wanted there. And I'm thinking this building here, I'm going to try and get a nice shot of this. trying to find some cool street pictures. And the silent mode on the G9 is really impressive because you can take pictures without anybody knowing. With silent mode on, I decided to try a bit of street photography. In silent mode, the electronic shutter is enabled and gives you the option to shoot at 60 frames per second, more than enough. There is no EVF blackout either, so the action you see in the EVF remains in sight, even when you're triggering the shutter. Manual focus. Yep, sometimes the old school ways are better. The EVF is perfect for manual focus. Extremely bright, no lag, and very large. Gaining critical focus is a breeze. Yeah, okay, so I'm no Henry Cartier-Bresson. Giving up on my street photography career, I headed for the cafe. I pair the camera with a 15mm Leica lens, and you get as close as you can to that signature Leica look without having to buy the real thing. And plus, all of the Panasonic GG Leica lenses feature short focus throws, manual aperture, and buttery smooth focus rates. The G9 has gone back to Panasonic, unfortunately. We have to give it back. But I just wanted to go over a few things that I might not have mentioned previously. Handling wise, this is for me where the camera really shines. It's similar in size to the GH-V, but it's got a much thicker, much deeper grip. And that's a big leap forward because there's not many CSCs out there that really feel like a DSLR. It's not a heavy camera, however, weighing 1,245 grams, it's still 67 grams lighter than the GH-V. And of course, since we're talking about the GH-V, we should really mention video. Unfortunately, in the time that I had the camera, I didn't really have a chance to go out and shoot some. But specs wise, it's all very promising. We've got a 4K resolution and a 420 8-bit signal, and that's up to 50 frames per second in PAL mode. And as well as that, you've got both MP4 and AVC HD formats and a H.264 codec. There is no vlog, however, like its video counterpart, the GH-V, but what it does have is the Cine-like profiles, which I think are just as good for that 8-bit 420 codec. It does, however, have full-size HDMI ports as well as microphone inputs and a headphone jack as well. Also worth noting is that the G9 does have a video record limit, capped at 30 minutes and 10 minutes for 4K 50p. In comparison to the GH-V, the G9 might sound a little bit limited video-wise. But I don't think it's for that. Really, the G9 is tailored for stills. If you consider yourself a photographer first and foremost, then the G9 for video will probably meet all of your demands easily. But if you're a videographer or a filmmaker full time and video really is what your work revolves around, then of course the GH-V is going to be the more obvious choice.
We're starting to lose light now, but we're getting this really nice sort of orange cast on the image, on the building. One thing that you must note though is that there is actually no option when you're using the high resolution image mode to use a timer. You can't use the in-camera timer, which is a bit of a shame.
Maybe a firmware fix for the future. I didn't try it with an external timer, so I can't say for sure if that's a fix. Currently the high resolution mode requires 1 second to expose the multiple shots. There is talk, however, of future versions capturing the image in less than 1/60th of a second. Either way, it's exciting to see this new technology being pushed. And it's not just Panasonic too. Olympus and Pentax also implement their own versions of the high resolution mode on their cameras. And let's not forget Hasselblad with the 200 and newly announced 400C backs. I feel multi-shot could be the future for small cameras. If you can't have a large sensor, well, just have more. Would like to have done some proper ISO tests, but again, just didn't quite have the time. I did do some tests around the house, however, and found that around about ISO 3200 to 6400 is really as far as I'd push it. Anything over 6400, you will see some extreme noise. 25,600 is the max ISO of the camera. Panasonic's sensor shift stabilization technology is one of the best on the market. The G9 features a 5-axis dual IS-II image stabilization system. This allows the camera to effectively compensate for shake in 5 different axes: up, down, left, right, as well as camera rotation too. If any shake is detected by the camera's accelerometers, it calculates and then corrects in real time the direction and speed to move the sensor, so that it remains stationary in relation to the image being projected into the lens. So it's pretty advanced. It compensates for a huge 6.5 stops. To put this into perspective, if you were to correctly expose a scene at 1.5 seconds and then switch the image stabilization on, you'd be correcting for 6.5 stops. So effectively, you'd have a shutter speed of 1/60th of a second in the same amount of light. It really is a game changer for low light photography as well as video too. After a long day of shooting in Liverpool, I headed back to the docks after sundown for one last image. After shooting in Liverpool, I had the G9 for one more day, so I challenged the camera further and put the speed to the test by finally shooting some wildlife. Nope. No, wait. Scrambling. Not wildlife, scrambling. Mud, rain, cold and more mud. Perfect conditions to test a pro camera. Shooting a trials biking. It's wet, it's cold, but so good. G9 is weatherproof. Weatherproof the camera is, myself not so much however. The G9 has a magnesium alloy construction and is not only splash proof and dust proof, but also freeze proof too, down to -10 degrees. The camera felt responsive and the buttons were very intuitive to navigate, and there's lots of them too, which is great because in conditions like this, navigating through menus can be a nightmare, but I didn't find myself in that situation. That said, however, the touchscreen was also performing very well under the heavy rain while wearing gloves too. The top LCD was also proving handy, another feature found on pro-level DSLR cameras. The top LCD makes adjusting settings in the field a lot faster. The autofocus on the G9 is also very impressive. Using a contrast AF system with Panasonic's Depth-ROM defocus technology, it focuses and locks on very quickly. It features 225 AF points, all selectable via an AF joystick, which is well placed and offers a textured finish for easy gripping. I tried a variety of different AF settings whilst I was shooting, and found that AF continuous with 225 area was the most reliable. Unfortunately, the camera didn't perform so well in the single area mode and resulted in a low focus hit rate. This is quite surprising, as for most it's the go-to AF mode for action, and gives you the most choice and reliability over which area is going to be in focus. The 225 area mode did deliver however, and the lighting conditions in these woods were far from ideal. This is a pre-production model however, so things like this can be updated and changed on the final production models. Again, the LVF, or Live Viewfinder as it's called, was great for shooting sports. Being one of the largest in its class, it's very clear and there's plenty of room for the icons and settings that are displayed around the edges without them being distracting or covering up the action in front of you. There's no EVF blackout or lag either, another huge plus. This image was shot using the mechanical shutter, which allows users to shoot up to 9 frames per second. Selecting the electronic shutter, you can then shoot up to an impressive 20 frames per second. But if that's still not enough for you, then there's also 60 frames per second in AF single mode. So that's it, a pretty long video for quite a brief review. But hopefully you can take something away from this, and I know I sure did. I love the G9, it really is a great camera. I'm going to leave you with some more photos from the previous day, and I think these are definitely some of my favourites. I'd be confident taking the G9 just about anywhere, to shoot just about anything, and it really is a do-it-all kind of camera. Whether it's sports, or street, or documentary, or travel especially, it's perfect. And let's not forget about those video functions. Or the price either, £1,499 for the body. That's for a pro level camera. It has all the features you need and does it all really well too. I think the G9 could be the ultimate do-it-all hybrid camera.